What is near-field communication? Who's using that type of technology? Apple Pay, Google Wallet, soft card, how do we capitalize on those types of transactions? And we're going to provide the answer for all those questions, and we're going to introduce you into the Ingenico lineup of the terminals that we're going to be able to utilize for a lot of those newer technologies. So I think you'll be happy to hear what we're going to unleash today. So let's talk about EMV first and foremost. You guys have been hearing a buzz about EMV for a year or two now, and now it's becoming more and more of a daily conversation. EMV was developed in the mid-1990s, so actually the technology's been around quite some time now. So who was it who designed EMV, or the criteria and the security features that are entwined in EMV? Well, it was Europay, MasterCard, and Visa. They got together and they created this chip, this microprocessor chip, that provides strong transaction security. So if you look at that chip up there in the top left-hand, EMV setting where you're going to use that EMV chip, you would actually pop it into the front of the terminal where that EMV slot resides, plug that card in, hand that equipment to the consumer. They can plug in their little security code, then they can go ahead and run that transaction. So why EMV? So EMV is going to cut a ton of fraud away from our industry. So the United States is actually one of the latest adopters to the EMV game. It's been around once again for many, many years, and so it's a commonplace way of running transactions in Europe, in Asia, and also in Canada. So those are all EMV countries. So when you go and you purchase a cup of coffee or a meal there, you're going to likely pay at the table through a device where they'll bring that device right to the table. Well, what about us here in the United States? Well, the liability shift is going to take place about a year from now, October of 2015. So part of our conversation today is what can we do as sales professionals to make sure we're ready for that shift in liability. So let's talk about that. What will that liability shift mean in October 2015? Well, what's going to happen is everybody is going to be expected to be able to process an EMV type transaction. So you have your processors, you have your issuers that are going to be issuing cards, you got your merchants, and you got processors that provide the equipment. Well, based on if fraud is committed after October of 2015, we're going to determine what caused that fraud. Was it because the processor didn't provide EMV compliant equipment? Was it the merchant refused to accept EMV compliant equipment and refused to run EMV transactions even though it was mandated? So what will happen is wherever that fraud is committed, whether it be in software, in a terminal, whether it be caused due to a processor or a merchant, they'll determine that cause, and then Visa, MasterCard will pass on fines to the individual or parties that were not EMV compliant. So to find out a little bit more about all that, you can go to this website, emvco.com. EMVCO, that's the website where you can find out all the details, all the criteria with EMV. You can find out a lot about some of the countries who have already adapted to EMV and some of the great success they've had in cutting down fraud in those countries. As you've noticed, we've had a pretty big influx here in the United States over the last couple months in regards to credit card fraud. Well, that's because the bad guys, the ones out there committing fraud, realize that more and more countries are embracing EMV. U.S. is one of the last countries in the world to embrace it, so they're coming in to commit as much fraud as they can before EMV squashes some of their ways of deceiving. So that's EMV. Now let's talk about NFC. What does NFC stand for? Well, that stands for contactless. It stands for near-field communication. So how does this work? How would a transaction take place in this scenario? Well, in the upper left-hand side of the column, you see the world-renowned logo or icon for NFC. So if you see that picture present, that means that they have equipment that would handle a near-field communication transaction. Over there on the right-hand side, you actually see a transaction taking place for that cup of coffee. You see the NFC equipped reader, which is the terminal, and then you have an NFC antenna built into that phone. So what happens is there's a couple different ways of communicating. There could be one-way communication or two-way communication. And if it's two-way communication, as you see here, what's happening is there's little micro antennas built in both of those devices that are going to pass that data, and it's going to encrypt that data before it passes that information on to the other device. So that is how NFC works. Now, so EMV, once again, it's going to plug in. You're going to actually hand them the card. You're going to plug that in. With NFC, the user themselves will tap that phone to the top of that device, usually within a ½ to an inch of the top of that device, and it'll allow those antennas to communicate that data back and forth. So NFC, who's using that today? Well, Apple Pay, Google Wallet, and ISIS, which has now changed their name to SoftCard, all use this NFC technology. So with these new Ingenico terminals, we're going to allow you to be able to accept transactions from all three of those type devices. So let's talk about Apple Pay. There's been a lot of buzz going on about that, hasn't there? So if you take a look at the upper right-hand corner, this is what the new iPhone 6 looks like. So you can add one card, or you can add more. That phone. Now, it's not going to actually store the 16 digits. It's going to encrypt it, tokenize that data, and every time a transaction takes place, there's going to be a device account number that's going to be assigned, encrypted, and it's going to protect all the data that was moved into that phone. So now, when that phone is tapped to the top of that NFC transaction takes place, it's going to be tokenized to where that data will never be available either on an Apple server or right there residing on the phone, or even in the merchant's terminal for it to be stolen, because once again it's scrambled, tokenized, and sent across, detokenized on the other end, transactions approved and sent back. So that is how Apple Pay is going to work. So now let's talk about how that's going to work with all of us on the phone today. Well, we're now introducing to the field Ingenico terminals. So we're going to have a countertop terminal option for you. We're going to have a wireless terminal option for you, as well as an external pin pad option. So let's talk about these three options. We have the ICT, that's our countertop terminal, the ICT 220. It's dual-com, it's EMV capable, and it's also going to be NFC ready, Apple Pay ready, Google Wallet ready, as well as SoftCard or ISIS ready. So you'll be able to tap a phone or one of those NFC devices to that. Now, EMV, once again, you'll be able to plug EMV cards into that terminal once it's woken up and made EMV ready, and then we'll be able to accept cards in that fashion as well. It's got an internal pin pad, so you can utilize the device itself for PIN debit transactions. Let's talk about the IWL255. That is our wireless version. That's the equivalent of our Hypercom 4230 that you would place today for a wireless setting. That too is dual com. It's EMV capable. That too will be able to accept the Apple Pay, Google Wallet, and SoftCard type transactions. It'll be EMV capable. So once with a quick little partial download, we'll be able to make it EMV ready as well. And then we have the IPP220. That's an external pin pad. So depending on your merchant's type of scenario, what sort of environment they're in, they may want to have an external pin pad instead of the internal pin pad. Maybe they want to pass that through the glass and have the pin pad residing on the other side. So if that's the case, you can actually set up the system to have the pin pad be the device that embraces the NFC technology. So if you have the IPP220 external pin pad connected to the ICT220 countertop terminal, you can actually, as you're setting the system up, you can actually tell the devices whether you want the countertop terminal or the external pin pad to be the one that's going to read those NFC transactions. So there you have it. Those are the three terminals we're going to be pushing out the door moving forward. Now, as we speak, you can go ahead and place the ICT220s, these countertop terminals. Over the next few days, we're going to have the IWL, these wireless 255 terminals, available to you. So we'll be notifying you once those become available over the next coming days. We're going to start these terminals out with a couple different placements. We have a free placement program and a rental program. We're also going to utilize a couple other programs that you guys have been talking to us about. You've asked for rental programs. You've asked for a purchase program. So we're going to be introducing those into the mix as well. So let's first talk about the free placement program. You're not going to find this to be much different than the free placement program as it resides today. So right now you can place the Hypercom 4100s or 4220s. You get your $200 upfront bonus. There's an 8X true-up at 90 days. Same scenario with these Ingenicos, the ICT220s. These countertop terminals, once again, there will be a $200 upfront bonus for those. 8X true-up after 90 days. The Merchant Advantage program kicks into play with this terminal as well. So after the 90th days, the MAP, the Merchant Advantage program kicks into play. That's where we're going to charge the merchant $9.95 a month, and that in turn is going to provide a warranty for the equipment. It's going to provide free paper for the equipment, as well as FedEx discounts and discounts at office supply stores as well. For the Ingenico IWL 255, our wireless version, you're going to get a $100 upfront bonus, similar to what you get today for the wireless terminal and free placement. We're going to have the 8X trip after the 90th day there. We have different criteria for your monthly minimum. So you got a $15 monthly minimum on that, a $5 threshold that you can go down to on the customer service fee, and then there's a $10 minimum wireless monthly fee that will go with that wireless terminal. And then, of course, the Merchant Advantage program details fall into play for that. As far as the pin pad, that external pin pad, that IPP220, same scenario for that is the same scenario that you'd use for the SC1000 pin pads today. So the criteria we have for a free pin pad is the same today. Now you notice that fourth bullet point is the second free placement terminal. So just as we have today, if you go out and you lock up a big merchant that's doing 50,000 or more in credit card volume and they request a secondary terminal at no cost, we'll allow that same scenario to take place moving forward with the Ingenico. So if you go out and get a monster business today doing 100 grand a month in volume, you can go ahead and give them that secondary terminal at no cost. Now let's talk about our rental program and what we're doing to introduce this in. So you're going to get, since this is a rental program, you're going to get the same upfront bonuses as you would with the free placement. So you're going to get your $200 upfront bonus, 8X true-up. There is a buy rate of $15 a month for the rental. So we want you to go out there and get at least $15 a month if you rent this Ingenico countertop terminal. So you go get 20, 25, 30, 35, 40 bucks a month for this terminal. You're going to get 100% of the payout above that buy rate of $15. So if you go get $30 a month for that terminal, the buy rate's the first 15, you're going to get that second 15, 100% of that buy rate above that $15. Notice that the Merchant Advantage program applies for that scenario as well on the rental placement. Now, if you're going to rent the wireless terminal, the buy rate on that's $30. Obviously, the cost is much higher on those wireless terminals than those countertop terminals. So the buy rate for that is at $30. Anything you market above that, you're going to get 100% payout above that buy rate. And once again, the same criteria you have today for your pin pads will be the same for that IPP 220 as you move forward. Now, in the very near future, we're going to obviously provide you with some other options. We're going to provide you with a purchase program, because we know many of you have expressed interest in going ahead and buying the terminals and reselling them at a higher value, making some money that way. We noticed that a lot of you have requested the purchase program, so you could purchase the terminals from us, go work through a third-party leasing company, and you can lease the terminals. So we should have something for you in regards to that purchase program here in the next week or two. But for right now, you have your rental program and the free placement program. So let's ask the question, are you personally going to be able to capitalize on the shift that's taking place in our industry today? Well, what do you need to do in order to make sure you do capitalize on that shift? Well, that's making sure that you understand what's going on. What is EMV? What it stands for? What sort of technology EMV is going to entail? And then also what it's going to do for our merchants. So if you walk into your merchants and you're able to talk at a high level about EMV, the fraud protection, what it's done in Canada, how it's lowered fraud in some countries up to 70%, and that's what it's going to do for us here in the United States. That's going to motivate your merchants. They're going to trust you. You're going to become that trusted advisor and consultant, so they're going to be likely to listen to you. So understand and be able to relate to EMV, where we're at today with it, where we're going to be a year from now with EMV, and how you can tie your merchants into that shift. NFC, once again, make sure you understand what near-field communication is, how it works. Understand that some of the newer payment technologies that are out there today, the Apple Pay, the Google Wallet, SoftCard, which used to be called ISIS, they're all utilizing that NFC capability technology. So make sure you understand it, understand how it works, understand how that's going to protect your merchant so you could speak to it. Understand our Amex full acquiring program. Once again, we're one of the first ISOs that global gave access to go out and do Amex full acquiring. So now you can make more money. You can increase your book of business by 25%, because now you can start capitalizing on the discount rate you're offering your merchants with Amex. Used to be, months ago with Amex, you would just make a small little transaction fee as you pass that transaction off to American Express themselves. Well, now you can actually save your merchants 30 to 40 basis points while you're marking up the Amex to make yourself 30, 40, 50 basis points of profit in the meantime. So with that new pricing and the new Amex full acquiring program, make sure you understand that, because you're going to really be able to capitalize on your merchants with that program. That, like I said, save them 30, 40 basis points while you're making 30, 40 basis points yourself on the Amex. Understand the security and liability shift and what that's going to mean to your merchants in October of 2015, 1 year from today. And understand who's going to be responsible for what, so you can explain to your merchants that there's certain things that they are mandated or expected to do to protect themselves and their consumers. Understand the purchase program once it comes out, so that you can better utilize those programs and match the needs of your merchant with the tools that we offer you. And then, of course, do not ever neglect to run out there with group offers. I've shared this many, many times on the phone. Our marketing program, that group offers, I think is one of the strongest programs out there in the marketplace today. You're not going to find other point-of-sale providers out there offering a marketing program to help your merchants grow their business by 8 to 10 to 12%. So if you understand group offers, how to build an offer, how to motivate your merchants to capitalize that data from their consumers to grow their group offers, you're going to find out that too is going to be a very, very powerful tool. It's going to lock them in, and your attrition is going to drop way, way down because they're utilizing this new technology. They're utilizing the payment technology. They're utilizing our group system, our group marketing, our Ingenico terminals. So all of these wonderful tools on top of the generous commissions that TMS continues to pay. That's how you're going to capitalize on the shift that's taking place today. So lumping this all together, make sure you know your merchants, ask those open-ended questions to understand where they're at today, where they want to be 6 months from today, 1 year from today, and then match their wants and needs and desires up with the products that we have at Total Merchant Services to make sure you're putting them into the right tools. So that is how you're going to capitalize. So once again, what's coming in the very near future? Purchase and upgrade options. So stay tuned. It's likely that those will be here within the next week or week and a half. The IWL 255 initially was going to be available in November. It's likely that it'll likely even hit before the week's up. So we'll likely get that available to you before this week ends. Right now on the ICT 220s, the Ingenicos, we don't have gift card options or check service capabilities or a lodging application. So if you have merchants that have those needs immediately, you're going to want to go ahead and place them in one of the other terminals that we have available today. So your gift card programs, you could pop them into the Hypercom 4220, or the check service, you can pop them into that as well. The lodging, the terminal we recommend most often for lodging scenarios, hotels, motels, would be your Verifone VX570. So if you have immediate needs for those, once we get those 3 product lines or applications built into the Ingenico terminal, we'll be able to provide upgrade options for you guys to pass out to your merchants. So once again, we should have an upgrade path being created too. I know a lot of you are already thinking about, okay, what do I do with the merchants on board that are being, picked and hunted by my competition out there, who are telling them they can bring them in an EMV terminal. So just hold tight. We want you to utilize the Ingenicos to go capitalize and grab new business. We're going to have that upgrade path created for you here very, very soon. So stay tuned. As far as customer service and support, we're going to continue to give you all the great support that you have today. If you want more details on the different products, you can go on to Amplify, or you can actually go straight to Ingenico's website as well to understand more about the wireless terminals, the ICT 220s, the countertop terminal as well. So there you have it, gang. That is it for today's session. If there's any questions that you have that didn't get answered through the program, please type it into the chat box. I'll go ahead and verbalize those questions out loud. Then I'll verbalize the answers out loud for everybody's benefit. So here is our first question. So it says, what are we doing with current merchants using terminals that are not EMV compatible, existing merchants with the 4220 and the 4100? So good question, Matt. What we're going to do is we're going to, as we go ahead and create our upgrade path, we're going to go ahead and swap out most of the terminals that are out there in the field today. So some of the 4220s that we're shipping out today, those are actually EMV capable. So they're just a quick download or a partial download to make them EMV capable down the road. So those ones we can utilize. All the Ingenicos that are going to go out as of this week and forward, there's going to be all the Ingenico NFC EMV capable terminals. So those ones will be a replacement for all the new businesses you guys write and bring aboard. And then we'll have a program where every month we'll be doing swap outs as we progress towards 2015 October. So stay tuned. We'll be doing some of that. Somebody said you're not able to find find marketing materials on Amplify. They were supposed to be on there. If you were to go on to Amplify into the marketing area, there should be a tab called Print Portal, and that's where you'll be able to find some of the Ingenico stuff. So hopefully go back and take a look at that. Let me know. I'm not understanding this question, Joanne, so maybe you might need to ask it a little bit clearer. It says customer service, no, Ingenico's, not TMS. Customer service for all the equipment is going to be provided by us, if that's what you were referring to. So all of our Tier 2 support and all of our people who do the downloads and reprograms and all that kind of stuff, they're all familiar with the Ingenico terminal, so they're going to be very, very comfortable with all that. Will there be instructions on how to operate Ingenico terminals? Yes, there are. There's quick reference guides that will be available with the terminals themselves as they get shipped out. You can also go to the website I have here on this page, ingenico.com. You can go on to Google and find out information as well on the terminals. They're pretty self-explanatory, pretty easy to understand, just as the Hypercons and Veriphones today. Somebody's asking what the buy rate is going to be on the terminals. Steve, I'm not sure what our buy rate will be on it, but it'll likely be somewhere in the ballpark of 150 to 200 bucks, I would guess. So then you'll buy it for that. Then you could go sell it for 300 or 400, or you can put it in the hands of a leasing company and go lease it for $29, $39, $49 a month and do that. That's the likelihood of where we're going to end up with that. Will Payment Jack be updated and capable of EMV? Yes, they'll have to be, because Payment Jack as it resides today, that's obviously PCI compliant, but there's no EMV capability on it. So between now and October of 2015, Payment Jack will do something as well. Will there be a $5 monthly charge for the external pin pad? Maria, it's going to be very close to what you have available to you today. Some scenarios you can do a free pin pad. Other scenarios you can charge that monthly fee. So very similar to what you have as far as the flexibility today, you'll have the flexibility with that external pin pad with them as well. Question for later, what about our current merchants who don't have this new technology? We're going to be swapping them out as the time flies. Once again, we have a whole year to replace all the terminals that are out in the marketplace today. So we'll be doing some swap outs every month as this next year progresses. Here's a question. Does the Ingenico IWL255 work on what wireless types? It's working on the Apriva, Steve. It's so we're working just like the wireless terminals today, the Hypercoms. It's going to work pretty much the same with the Apriva platform. Here's a question: what's chargeback ramifications with Apple Pay now that you're not getting a signature? Well, the transactions are going to be much more secure because of the individual. Apple is going to take some of the risk for the smaller transactions. For the larger transactions, I'm not sure exactly how that's going to be played out. So I'm going to go ahead. That's a good question for the higher average tickets chargebacks. So let me get some details on that for you. Vladimir, you asked about pen pads. It's both the terminals, the ICT 220 and the IWL 255 wireless. They both have internal pin pads, and then you have the external pin pad as well. So you have all options available based on whatever your merchant wants and what their needs are. Compare the coverage and accessibility of Payment Jack Swiper and the wireless Ingenico. So Payment Jack today, I would say, is going to be a great fit for your iPhones and your iPad people who have those devices out there. We have Groove Swiper today for a Droid tablet or for Droid phones. And then you obviously have all the great bells and whistles that come with our Groove Swiper solution. Now the wireless Ingenico 255, this is going to work on a cell. It's going to work off a cell device, much like your cell phone. So your coverage is going to be pretty strong, much like your Payment Jack would be. Payment Jack will not accept EMV. Payment Jack will not accept NFC, whereas your wireless IWL 255, your Ingenico, will accept, you know, the Apple Pay, the Google, the ISIS, and the EMVs. So if you're talking to a customer and it's one or the other, I would definitely push them towards the wireless Ingenico 255. Their monthly net's going to be a little bit more expensive than the Payment Jack, but if you just let them know, hey, Payment Jack's technology is going to be outdated a year from now. So don't you want to go with something that you know is going to be, you know, fully compliant as we approach 2015? Vladimir, you asked a question about setting up surcharge on PIN debit transactions. That's a little off topic, so why don't you go ahead and call your partner support rep, and they'll be able to answer that question for you. Here's a question here. Does a merchant have to be on MAP, Merchant Advantage Program, to get a free terminal swap out? So they get free Merchant Advantage Program for the first 90 days. So if anything was to happen to that terminal within the first 90 days, we're going to swap it out at no cost to the merchant. After that 90 days, if your merchants opt out of that MAP or you opt out for them, then they will be responsible to pay for that swap out of that terminal. If they have the Merchant Advantage Program in place and they're paying that $9.95 a month, then that will cover the swap out. Here's another question from Michael. So it said, you said new credit cards will have the magnetic stripe and EMV for submitting merchants. So yes, that is going to be the case. So as you can imagine, it's quite an undertaking to change out a technology, because when you think about our mag stripe, that technology has been around nearly 50 years. So we haven't had any major advancements in payment technology in that period of time. So now we're doing it, and so there's going to be a little rotation. So all of the terminals that you see going out today, we're calling them EMV capable. So you're not going to see a lot of EMV transactions take place today because the issuers our big banks that are issuing out these cards, they're just now getting into issuing the EMV capable cards. A lot of the cards that you got maybe even this year still had the mag stripe on them. So as we draw closer to October 2015, you'll see more and more of those cards be sent out from issuing banks. Then you'll see more and more consumers want to use them on site at merchants' establishment. So then you'll see more and more of a request for them. And then for, I'd say another 2 or 3 years to come, our terminals here will have both swipers. They'll have an EMV ready swiper as well as the mag stripe swiper till we completely kind of make that full rotation in the EMV world. Joanne, you asked this question about the payment jack that you just sold to the users with iPads. Something, until we understand exactly what payment jack's going to do for EMV, I don't know exactly what to tell you on that. But based on what you sold them today with payment jack, they'll have to make some sort of adjustments by October of 2015. And I wouldn't be too quick to jump, because in my opinion, I wouldn't be surprised if things get pushed back a little bit, even from October 2015. So even though we still have a whole year before any of this gets mandated, there's big banks, credit unions, some of them are still real slow to make the necessary financial adjustments and enhancements to their systems. So I would say, just hold tight, and something will come up between now and then for EMV, and we'll have something EMV for our groove systems as well. Here's a question: is Ingenico capable of non-swipe wireless touch? Absolutely. That's why we're here today. Both of those, you could use EMV plug-in, you can use the NFC touch, or you can swipe with the mag stripe. All right, any other questions, gang? Go ahead and type them into the chat box. I'll verbally repeat them out loud, then we'll get the answers out to everybody. Ben, thank you. Appreciate you being on the call. Vladimir, in regards to Ingenico's being capable of logo printing, I don't think so, but I'll find out. I'll find out if they can print logos. Your print criteria on that is going to be very similar to what the print criteria is on the 4220s. Good. Thanks, Bob, for sharing that. With the Ingenico's EBT is supported today, so we are able to go with EBT today. Another question you guys might be thinking is, well, the Ingenicos, are they okay for multi-merchant? And they are. So you can do multi-merchant right now with the Ingenicos as well. Chat box. You are quite welcome, Maria. I try to do that. She was thanking us for the flexibility on the different times we do our trainings, and I try to shake it up because we have people in 3 or 4 different time zones, right? Here's a question. If a merchant has a Hypercom 4220 today but needs an EMV Ingenico by next year, will the terminal swap out be free, or will the merchant have to pay for it? That's a good question. We have not determined exactly what that's going to look like. It might be a free terminal swap out. It might just be a minimal, like a $99 swap out, one-time fee, something like that. So stay tuned. We should have some sort of swap out, because obviously, as you can imagine, swapping out 500,000 terminals in a year is going to be pretty costly. So I'm not sure exactly what we're going to do with that, but we'll definitely keep you posted. Here's a question. What would the scenario be to order 4220 over the Ingenico due to a gift card check payment? You just mark that on the application. So the two-page application, the Easy App's been changed out. Snap App and SAO is being changed out as we speak, and those should hopefully be fully cleaned up by the end of the week. But in this scenario where you need gift card and check acceptance, just mark that on the Easy App that's what you need, and that a Hypercom 4220 is needed for that one. Vladimir, you asked about swivel stands for the Ingenicos. You'd have to get that, or your merchants would have to get that through a hardware provider. We're not providing those types of stands, not for the Ingenico terminals. All right, we're out of questions again, so if you have any more questions, go ahead and type those in, gang. All right, well, it looks like we've answered everyone's questions. I want to thank you all for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us this afternoon. Go out there and place yourself some Ingenico terminals and some Groove systems, and let us know how we can support you internally here at Total Merchant Services. Thanks for joining us this afternoon. Good selling, everybody. Bye-bye now.